Hi, I'm Bob Garrett. At Hackensack Meridian Health, we believe that all residents need to be informed about the important healthcare issues that affect their lives. That's why we're very proud to support the important programming produced by the CAUCUS Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Hackensack Meridian Health, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, TD Bank, the Russell Berry Foundation, making a difference, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, the law firm of GIBBONS, P.C., Englewood Health, and by ADP, a comprehensive provider of human resources technology and services. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by Commerce Magazine.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is One-on-One at the NJTV studio in New York, the Agnes Ferris NJTV studio. Let me introduce, once again, doing more important things, Chris Paladino, president of an organization called New Brunswick Development Corporation, otherwise known as?
DevCo.
So listen, we're taping in the fall of 2019. There's a little project, the New Brunswick Performing Arts Center.
Just finished. 450,000 square feet. It's $174 million worth of investment, 23 stories. It has 2 theaters, rehearsal spaces, collaborative office spaces for a variety of arts organizations, not just our resident companies, but arts organizations throughout Middlesex County and the region, and 207 luxury apartment buildings. 20% of them are set aside for affordable units, and we partnered with the Actors Fund in New York. They went out and recruited artists that qualified for that space. So we have ballet dancers, musicians, people who build stages, choreographers living in the building.
This is in New Brunswick?
It's in New Brunswick.
So, devil's advocate, we do a lot of work with the folks at the Performing Arts Center here in Newark, the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. Someone says, hey, wait a minute, what's up with all these performing arts centers? Aren't they going to be competing with each other, you say?
Not at all. I think they are complementary. I think what we're doing in New Jersey is growing the arts audiences. And I see people who don't necessarily have had a lot of exposure to maybe NJPAC, who come to our theater, really start to get hooked on a variety of different cultural offerings, and say, look, I'll check out what goes on at NJPAC. Actually meeting with John
Schreiber, our good friend, the CEO, right?
Next week, he's going to tour our facility. Maybe we'll do some cross-marketing, let people know in New Brunswick what's going on in Newark, and hopefully in Newark what's going on in New Brunswick.
How dare people in New Jersey collaborate? It's interesting. Chris understands government, the corporate world, not-for-profit world, the arts, culture, and frankly, developing New Brunswick. And as a former student of Rutgers, I know what it was like, let's just say in the 80s and the early 90s, and it is a very different community today, and your organization's had a lot to do with that. Am I exaggerating that?
No, look, New Brunswick it's been a long journey. It started back in the 70s. Johnson & Johnson decided to stay in New Brunswick. Rutgers continued to grow. RWJ Barnabas now. The hospital, cancer center started to continue to grow. So it's a busy place. Probably about 65,000 people live there. 100,000 people come every day to go to school and to work. So it's an exciting place. Within 5 blocks of my office, 4,000 people live today that did not live there 10 years ago.
And those folks are primarily, someone says, oh, you're involved in, quote, gentrification, you say?
We turned parking lots, underutilized land, and created opportunities for people to live and work there.
It's interesting.
Grow the economy.
Creating jobs, creating more tax revenue. And by the way, the Cancer Institute, we just had Dr. Labudi and Barry Ostrowski talking about that. Real quick, tell folks DevCo's role with this new Cancer Institute. I believe it's opening in 2023. Go ahead.
Right before the Cancer Institute gets recertified as a national cancer institute. $800 million, the only standalone cancer facility in New Jersey. It'll have clinical space, research space, and it will have 98 critical care hospital beds with surgical suites.
I'm curious about something.
All focused on cancer.
EDA. We have actually Tim Sullivan, the head of the Economic Development Authority, coming in today, and also with the head of Choose New Jersey, Jose Lozano, to talk about a business trip that the governor took to India and what was going on there. Why is it relevant?
And I avoided going on.
You avoided. Well, I'm gonna go here.
Okay.
One of the issues we always talk to Tim Sullivan and the folks at the EDA about are these tax credits. I don't want to get in the weeds, but to what degree did the economic development tax credits impact and help or not the development of the Performing Arts Center in New Brunswick?
Clearly, we couldn't have done it without it. We had $40 million worth of tax credits through the county.
Explain what it means, $40 million worth of tax. So they give you $40 million?
They give us an allocation of tax credits. We go out to the open market and we sell those. We usually sell them to 92 cents on the dollar. We sold some here for 95 cents on the dollar. We take that contract. We went to Middlesex County, which was very helpful. They let us monetize those through a bond issue for 10 years using
the county government?
The county government.
They did what with the bond issue?
They let us monetize it. So we took the contracts that we had from the buyers of the tax credits, the commitment to pay, and then we actually used that as the revenue to pay the bonds. Because Middlesex County has a AAA credit rating, we were able to really provide value for those. So we took those tax credits. We supported not only the theater, but the residential component. By making the residential component work, we were then able to, Mayor Cahill allowed us to monetize.
The mayor of New Brunswick?
The mayor of New Brunswick, to monetize future property tax revenue, and the city made a $16 million contribution to the theater project.
You know, when you think about this, there are so many different players. I mean, does it take, I'm quoting Hillary Clinton, does it take a village to build a performing arts center?
Absolutely. We have 9 partners in this project. Everybody from our resident companies, George Street, Crossroads, Mason Gross, Rutgers, the American Repertory Ballet, Middlesex County, the New Brunswick Parking Authority. The New Brunswick Parking Authority, paid for the parking garage. We have our private sector partners, Penrose. We were able to put together a financing. We have a $65 million arts infrastructure. We have 2 theaters, rehearsal spaces, lobbies, that has no debt.
One second. Those 2 theater companies, it's George Street and?
The Crossroads Theater Company.
Someone says, hey, wait, devil's advocate. You separated those companies. You put them all together, but aren't they separate? Don't they have their own unique constituencies, you say?
Absolutely. Not only do they have their unique constituencies, what we want is we want them to cross-market, and it's why we built one lobby. Crossroads in one theater, George Street's one theater on a Saturday night. We want those people talking.
But don't they have different audiences?
They have different audiences. But maybe they'll start to go and take a look at what each of the other organizations doing, and come back next Saturday night and see something that Crossroads doing if you're a George Street subscriber.
Are you a big believer, obviously you are, in the role of the arts in promoting economic development, creating jobs, tax revenues? You truly believe that?
Absolutely. It's estimated, using a variety of federal authorities, that about $35 million comes to New Brunswick before we built these buildings. This should add another $25 million in local economic activity. Restaurants, creating jobs in restaurants, people that stay in your hotel, people who pay to park, people who just come into town, have a cocktail. We're probably looking at over $50 million of economic activity that's driven by the arts in New Brunswick.
We're talking to Chris Paladino, head of the New Brunswick Development Corporation, played a huge role in the development of the Performing Arts Center in New Brunswick. Before I let you go, the role of technology and innovation in the Arts Center is?
We are able to do, we took 2 theaters, and we replaced those 2 theaters. People said, why did you spend all this money to just build 2 theaters? And we didn't add that many seats, maybe a couple hundred seats.
We're taking a look right now. Go ahead.
What we were able to do, though, through technology, is be able to, and the correct rehearsal spaces, is where they used to do 210 performances annually on that street. In the 2 theaters that had been there before, we have 340 booked for 1920 for this season. So we have traps. We have a 90-foot fly. We have rehearsal spaces. So you don't have to use the stage to rehearse. You rehearse in a rehearsal space that's exactly the same size as the stage. You go right to tech, you go to dress rehearsal, and you do performance. On a Monday night, Tuesday night, where there may not be a play, we're able to take the scenery, fly it up into the sky, or take it down into the basement through the trap system, and do a lecture, do a jazz, do a classical performance.
Look at you. By the way, Chris Paladino said that he told a guest who was coming on who was nervous, don't be afraid because Steve Adubato does all the talking. Did you not say that?
I did say that.
Oh, that was private? Not anymore. I love this guy.
Thank you,
Great
sir.
stuff. Congratulations to you and your colleagues.
I appreciate it.
We'll be visiting down there soon.
I hope so. Thank you
very much.
much.
This is one-on-one. I swear I won't be doing all the talking. We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to welcome Patty Greer, who is Chair of Legal Studies, Berkeley College School of Professional Studies. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Steve?
We're doing great. We actually had a conversation with our friend Patrick Dunnigan at a law firm right around here. Gibbons, you talked about the business of law and how it's changing dramatically. So you and your colleagues are teaching on some level the business of law, and who are you teaching it to?
Yes. So we are teaching the business of law to our students who basically want to come into a legal studies program, either as a career changer, as the first time out of high school looking to get into the field. How do we teach the business of law? We have a specific course in law firm management and administration, but we try to, in all of our courses, give the real life experience, examples to our students of, okay, when we're practicing law, this is what happened. So they like that. They like that real life experience.
So is it paralegal? Because I know you have a paralegal program.
Yes. So we have a legal studies program,
right,
where we prepare students to either go into the paralegal profession, or there are those students who also want to go to law school.
So
we
it's
have
interesting.
two.
Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
I was saying to you that I've done some leadership development with people who are lawyers, and I'll often say to them, look, I know you're telling me you only want to, quote, do the law, you study the law, you love the law, and I'll say, okay,
right,
great, but you also have a responsibility to build business, to build relationships, to understand, I don't like using the term sales, but that's part of it.
Right.
Am I wrong?
You're definitely not wrong. I mean, in today's day and age, obviously any law firm is a business, so anyone who wants to work for a law firm has to recognize the fact that there is that responsibility on the business end to, cultivate relationships even at the level of a legal assistant, especially if you want to advance. I mean, it's just necessary in today's world.
Is the legal field flooded right now? Are there too many lawyers?
Well, New Jersey does have the dubious distinction of having the greatest number of attorneys for the population.
Is that true? We're number one?
That's as far as I know, but you can fact check me on that.
Hold on, Patty, is that good or bad?
I think it's good for employment. I guess it might say we're a very litigious state. I don't know, but
You're not. That's not a stretch.
I know.
So we got a lot of lawyers.
We have a lot of lawyers.
Do we have enough jobs for the lawyers?
Well, there's always attorneys who are retiring. As you know, with the opioid litigation that's going on now across the country, I mean, these lawsuits are going to keep going on and on. Same thing with the tobacco, the vaping cases. I mean, there's always going to be those areas that are growing, and there's always areas that are, stable. When you talk about personal injury, wills, trusts, and estates, criminal actions, there's always going to be jobs in the legal profession for people who are qualified to perform.
Because there are always issues, conflicts, problems, challenges, people with different points of view.
Exactly. People buying homes, selling homes,
By the way, it's interesting. The Newark Museum, right?
Yes.
Has a business and community council. What is that, and how is it connected to the program?
So I just started serving on that last month, and basically I was asked to be on it as a representative for Berkeley College, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to, have Berkeley College be more affiliated with, their museums, expanding their outreach of programs, and also just interacting with other business leaders in Newark has been an amazing experience.
Patty, let me ask you, the kinds of students who, in fact, are part of this program, describe who they are. Is it a mixed group? Help us understand that.
Definitely a mixed group, which is great because when you're teaching the classes as a faculty member, you have students who are right out of high school. You have students who are middle-aged, who are career changers, who are looking to get back into a career after being out of the workforce. We have students sometimes who are going from other professions completely and have an interest in the law. It's never a dull moment. Let's put it that way.
What you love about the law most is, and by the way, let me just make it clear that you, 22 years practicing in New York for several years
Yes.
before returning to academia,
Yes.
before focusing on academia.
Right. So I practiced in the area of corporate law in Manhattan for 7 years, and then I've been full-time at Berkeley. I've been with Berkeley for 22 years altogether.
When did you know you loved the law?
I would say I grew up in a very political family, and I have a lot of family members who are attorneys. So at a young age, I was just exposed to, that, door-to-door campaigning with my father and learning.
That's politics. What about law?
Yeah,
Did you
but,
see it all in the same?
But the law is, intertwined with politics. I mean, first of all, so many legislators are attorneys, right? And they're making the laws. So, even when I was young, I just saw the power that, that the law had upon society, and I really don't know other than I just took an interest in it.
Patty Greer is Chair of Legal Studies, Berkeley College School of Professional Studies. I want to thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is One on One. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Agnes Varis NJTV studio. We'll be right back.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to be joined by John Mooney, Executive Director and Education Writer, New Jersey Spotlight. John, tell folks the connection between Spotlight and the larger public television family.
Well, thanks, Steve. As you know, Spotlight's been around for about 10 years. We were actually celebrating our 10th birthday pretty soon, but we were acquired by WNET, Channel 13 in New York, to be a partner with NJTV News in New Jersey, to be their digital arm. And we think it's a wonderful marriage. And really, I think the biggest beneficiary is our viewers and readers, who will get really more complete coverage of public affairs in New Jersey.
And to that end, check out NJTV News every night and see exactly what John's talking about. John, let's get to some of the key issues, education issues. Where are we with this thing called the PARCC test? As we speak on the 3rd of October, 2019, it's evolving.
Yeah, it is definitely evolving, to say the least. I mean,
standardized test.
Yeah, standardized tests aren't going anywhere, and it's going to be online. PARCC is being phased out. It's obviously was controversial. Just its name is controversial at this point. It'll be phased out. It'll ultimately be replaced by a very similar test with a different name. But where we're evolving right now is how much testing we want our kids to do, and how often. And right now there's a big debate, especially around high school, and whether we require testing every year in high school, or at least 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. The Murphy administration is pushing to scale it back, as he's long promised to do. There are some forces out there that want to maintain it. They think that's really valuable in ensuring that there's some accountability for students. And the less testing, the less you know about how the kids are doing. Yes, schools do a lot of their own testing, obviously, but there's real questions of whether they're really living up to their promise either. So it's a big debate, philosophical one. It's
also a practical one. Sorry for interrupting, John. There are a lot of questions that people are asking. We've had a lot of educators come on and say, listen, love teaching. Don't love teaching to the test to the degree we do. Fair argument?
Yeah, sure. Sure, it's fair. But where's the accountability? I mean, I think
got to have it somehow.
You got to have it somewhere.
And if it's not that, then what?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a big question. And what comes into it is graduation requirements and all those kinds of things, and whether a test should be required for that. These are debates that I've been covering education for 20 years in New Jersey. They've been going on for 20 years, and they're going to be going on for the next 20.
And with all due candor, not just my opinion, no one's covered it better than John Mooney. Education. How about this? Commissioner Repillette, Commissioner of Education, was on State of Affairs recently, our sister program, and said, you know what? Ed Week, Education Week, just named us the #1 state in the nation for education. That's not fake news.
No. and Education Week's a very reputable magazine.
Is there a but?
Weekly. Well, there's a but. It's not just, New Jersey's always been very high up in terms of performance. We're a wealthy state. Typically, performance follows wealth. And so we've done well. We've also made a big commitment to our urban schools, so they are stronger than most. But a big part of that math, which gets skipped over, is how much we spend on our schools. And New Jersey spends as much or more than any other state on its schools. So it's not just about performance. It's really about investment and spending on schools as much as anything.
John, help people understand. The state constitution of 1947, in fact, when it talked about schools, it said that the state had the responsibility. The state, while there are 600 plus school districts, the state ultimately has responsibility for largely funding the local schools in addition to property taxes, correct?
Yeah, specifically it says the state has a responsibility to provide a thorough and efficient system of education for
Lots of debate as to what that means to different people.
Yeah, there's been a few court cases around that one.
Just a few.
Abbott versus Burke being the big one.
Yeah. Check out that. How about this? We had the Senate President on recently, Steve Sweeney, who's talked about his initiative called Path to Progress. Not just him, others involved. He's leading the effort. That Path to Progress talks about getting our fiscal house in order. To what degree, in your view, does that impact the spending on education in our state and the impact on our schools?
Well, it in several ways. I mean, a big piece of Path to Progress, and maybe its most controversial, or at least among its most controversial, is the consolidation of school districts. We have, as you mentioned, we have 600 school districts. There's clearly certain inefficiencies in that. But there's also a huge political reality of home rule and the rest. He wants to at least start that process where we're moving away from small K-6 districts, one school districts, though there are very few of those left, moving more to a K-12 system, merging high school regionals with the districts that feed into them. That is going to be a slow process, and he, I think wisely, is taking it slow. I mean, we haven't even seen a bill on it yet. And maybe we'll start seeing things pick up, in the lame duck. But it's, the
lame
fraught
duck session of the legislature.
Of the legislature after the election. I mean, it's fraught with political peril, no doubt about it. And I think you'll see some movement. He, again, wisely, I think, has gotten some takers on this, who we haven't heard yet. But when he puts forward that bill, there'll be a couple takers already out there. And maybe Sussex County has talked a lot about it, Salem County, maybe that could even be a county district. So I think he's going to have some ducks in a row, and that will be interesting. But it's a tough sell.
Try this. Governor Murphy recently talked about expanding pre-K funding, right? That's not the first time. It's continued to expand. This whole idea of universal pre-K, where are we right now? How close are we to that? And why does it matter? Loaded questions, I know.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're a ways, quite a ways from universal, but it is expanding. It's obviously in all the the neediest districts.
Abbott, is it 28 or 31?
31.
31 Abbott districts that are defined by the courts.
Yeah, defined by the courts, and they're largely the neediest, but there's lots of poor kids who don't live in those cities. And slowly but surely, they're reaching them. I think, we're roughly probably a third of the way there in terms of reaching all those kids in those communities.
For universal, for pre-K?
Well, for students who would be eligible as low income. It's not all kids out there by any means. And it's huge. I mean, the benefits of pre-K, ask anybody who sends their kid to school before kindergarten, what the value it is for that kid then going into kindergarten and on to the higher grades. It's, learning those skills early, social, learning early letter skills, early math skills. There's no doubt the benefit. And it's both empirical and anecdotal. So, it is, I would say, Governor Murphy's biggest accomplishment so far is getting that going. Revived, it sort of went dormant under Chris Christie for a while. It didn't shrink, but it didn't grow. Now it's starting to grow.
And by the way, check out pre-K, an initiative we have, we'll put up on the air right now, our website from right from the start, NJ, which focuses on the importance of early child care, 0 to 3, if you will, birth to 3. John, vaping and our schools. I mean, there's a large societal question. We'll have the Commissioner of Health talking about it, Judy Persicelli and others. But as an educational school issue, you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's ubiquitous. And I know a lot of educators, obviously, and talk to them. And, starting in 5th grade, maybe even a little younger, but certainly 5th, 6th grade, these kids are bringing them in and they're sneaking them off into the bathroom. You hear stories in high schools where they're in the back row, leaning on their collar. So it's everywhere. And educators have talked about it more than most. I mean, it really, in the last couple of years, just sort of came out of nowhere. As in terms of its popularity. Now the dangers, how that all shakes out is going to be interesting.
But the role of the schools, sorry for interrupting, the role of the schools in all this is?
To not allow it, but it is.
But to police it, do they have the resources to police this vaping crisis?
And it can be so concealed. I mean, that's the thing, and it can be odorless. And I don't know a whole lot about it, certainly having never done it, but it's certainly real, and it affects schools.
Before I let you out of here, a place for the future of local media. You know it well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time. I mean, it really is, to say the least. I mean, I think Spotlight has has found a really good place for itself and for the state. I think public media in New Jersey is strong, but it's evolving. We're weighing how do we transition to a more digital. I mean, we all carry these phones. That's our newspaper now, and talking to each other through social. These are all. It's a very different world than when I started as a reporter. Back in, I won't even say the year. But
many years at the Ledger and doing great work. And by the way, we're evolving as well at our not-for-profit production company. John, thank you.
Always a pleasure, Steve.
We learn a lot every time you're with us.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Adubato. Check us out next time.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Hackensack Meridian Health, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, TD Bank, the Russell Berry Foundation, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, the law firm of GIBBONS, P.C., Englewood Health, and by ADP. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by Commerce Magazine. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
I'm Tim Sullivan, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Since joining the NJEDA, I've been struck by the incredible assets and resources that New Jersey has to offer. The NJEDA is working every day to grow New Jersey's economy in a way that maximizes the values of those assets to benefit every single New Jersey resident. This includes more support for small businesses and a focus on reclaiming New Jersey's position as a leader in the innovation economy. Visit njeda.com to learn more about how NJEDA is building a stronger and fairer New Jersey economy.